Say something. I think you muted yourself.
Well done, Greg.
And
You are now listening to the number one sports podcast, broadcasting Sundays at 9 a.m.-ish in Sacramento, California. Sports Talk 916. Now here are your hosts, Greg Bowl and Coach Greg Barroso.
Howdy ho, ladies and there's no ladies in here. Howdy ho, guys. It's 9-ish on Sunday, and you know what that means. It's time for Sports Talk 916, this little shindig that we've called it. And I'm Coach Greg, and right there, I think you're right there, is Mr. Chief Greg Bowl. And this is welcome to episode 265 of Sports Talk 916. And that might have been the worst intro we've ever done in the history of this show.
Whoa, why is that?
Just because I was all over the place. It was.
Oh, well, that's normal.
Yeah.
What's up, man? 265. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. A little tired today, a little off, I think. I don't know why. I drank a couple nights ago, but I was fine last night. But I think it's catching up with me. I had my 3 beers. And I'm out of it.
I wish I only had 3 beers. Yeah. Anyways, nothing exciting this week. Got to go see the baby yesterday.
Oh, did you? How's that going?
Yeah, good. She's cute as hell, and the family's super happy, and it's always fun to see her.
Crazy happy, huh?
Yeah, they are for sure. But yeah, so big show today. Big show in the terms of we're gonna have a lot to talk about. Small show in terms of topics. We're going to go extremely San Jose Sharks heavy to start. If you're on the Facebook Live broadcast, you can see a couple extra faces. They're going to come on here in a second with us and go ahead and break down the Sharks season for us. And then we're going to get into Kings talk. There's a lot going on, a lot of our normal idiot King fan discussions to have about the latest game with the Warriors and the progression of the team. We have some Raiders news, maybe some Major League Baseball stuff, and then we're going to jump into our normal NFL recap. So, without further ado, as mentioned, we have Nolan, Torri, and Chad Thurston joining us on. They are 2 of the and diehard Sharks fans that I know, and they both are gracious enough to take some time out of their morning to break down the Sharks season. So, first of all, gentlemen, good morning. Hopefully, you guys are doing well.
Welcome.
Good morning, Greg.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for showing up. Thanks for getting up early on a Sunday morning and hanging out with us.
Is this early? Oh.
For us, it is.
It is on a Sunday. Oscar Zepeda just said, "Whoa, I see a former Rudder Roadrunner." I'm thinking that's Chad, right?
Yeah,
that's right. So Oscar knows a little bit of everybody, so it's always fun to, see people here. So,
he was my coach, so I know the guy.
Nice. So as mentioned, you guys are big Sharks guys. I'm trying to get into it. Chad is actually the one that gave me permission to not have to worry about a Sharks bandwagon as long as I started before the season and to proclaim my fandom. So I've been trying to do that. It's just there's too much going on during Shark season for me to be a new fan and, devote everything to it. If I wasn't a baseball fan and following winter meetings, or I wasn't a Kings fan and following turmoil, it might be a lot easier, but there's just too much going on. So I'm trying. You guys are in depth into it, so we're just going to go ahead and we'll let you guys kind of break things down. Nolan was gracious enough to send over a laundry list of topics that would be good to cover. We're also sharing this in a lot of our Shark groups so that we can, maybe get some more questions and things like that for you guys. But let's start off with the big one. The Sharks had really high expectations going into the season, especially after, it seems like they're always in it at some point the last couple of years. Like, they're that team that just can't get over the hump. They're always, like, on paper, they're the team, and they always kind of filter out a little bit. But what was the expectation going into this season? What was the vibe like? I know they went out and made a couple big trades in the offseason. What was 2018-19 looking like before the season started?
Yeah, so I would say the story there starts in the off season, right? their GM, Doug Wilson, sort of planned this offseason to have a lot of cap space so they could add to the team and sort of really load up and make a run. They tried to bring in the biggest free agent on the market, John Tavares, center, who ended up signing with Toronto. Once that ship sort of sailed, and they were one of the 4 teams that got to actually meet with him in person and try to win him over to come to San Jose, but that didn't happen. But they ended up making a big trade, as you referenced, for Erik Karlsson, 2-time Norris Trophy winner for best defenseman in the NHL. That actually happened the very same day as the first day of training camp that the guys were doing media photo shoots and everything. So a couple of guys on the team, Tierney and DeMello, got shipped out that same day as they were taking photos with the team, which was an interesting day. But that trade sort of set off the Stanley Cup expectations. I think in Vegas, they were in the top 3 or 4 teams preseason to be Stanley Cup favorites going into the season. And the head coach, Peter DeBoer, right after that trade happened, they held a team meeting, and he basically told the guys, hey, we have the talent in here to win the Stanley Cup. It's up to us to make it happen from here. So that was kind of the big lead into the season. The season itself has been very up and down. A lot of people have blamed that on, integrating Karlsson into the mix. It's a big force on the team that they're not used to having, so it's taken some time to adjust. But there's been a lot of ups and downs. They finally have started to get it together the last 5 or 6 games, but the beginning of the season was very up and down. They'd win 2, lose 1, lose 2, win 2. It's been very inconsistent.
Yeah, I think you're.
Well, and go. Sorry,
I was gonna say, I think you're well prepared to be a Sharks fan from being a Kings fan for so many years. You're right. It's like every year you're in the playoffs, and we even got to go to a Stanley Cup game, and then you just end up disappointed. So I think this year, especially pick up Karlsson, and then I would say also signing some of the forwards that we needed to keep on. Keeping Kane around was a big deal too for us. So kind of cementing that team, we feel like we have all the pieces. At this point, it seems like it's just a matter of getting them to work together and fit into one puzzle, as opposed to having a bunch of guys who don't really know how to play together.
Yeah, you mentioned trying to hold it together and making everybody fit. I know one of the main objectives and one of the biggest concerns that I saw from Sharks fans was they traded for Karlsson, but he's going to be a free agent next year. And when he got traded from, he was at Ottawa, right?
Correct. Yeah.
He basically professed his undying love for Ottawa and their fans and the city and all this other stuff. And the Sharks fans at least seemed like they weren't concerned about what they were getting as a player. They were concerned about what they were getting as a rental player. And the big thing was, let's woo him. Let's make sure he knows that San Jose is a destination in Hockey City. We want to have him resign here, all this other stuff. And things seem to be decent with that. And then at least the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of seemingly negative, reports coming out with the chemistry with him. And there was one just the other day that, in one of the huddles or timeouts or something, that one of his teammates was basically yelling at him to fuck off because they're tired of him and all this other stuff. Is that still an area of concern? Do you think that the ownership and stuff has done enough to potentially, woo him to stay? Do they have enough money to throw his direction should Ottawa or someone else come, trying to get his services back? What's your feelings on Karlsson going forward into next year?
Yeah, so there's a lot of facets to that. I do think he has enjoyed his time in San Jose. I think a lot of the media reports that have come out recently are because they were just in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago. So the Canadian media is trying to stir things up and pull storylines. There was a story ran that Karlsson was more of a dictator and a captain than he was in Ottawa. So there was a lot of bad press that people are pulling out in Canada. I think they're a little bit bitter that he's now in California. But they will have cap space depending on what they decide to do with their other free agents they have. Joe Pavelski, their team captain, is due up for free agency as well, who is having a great year. He's got 20 goals, which leads the team so far. So we'll see what happens with him. That'll dictate a lot of it. They've got a few restricted free agents they'll have to take care of as well. Timo Meyer, who's having a breakout year, Jonas Donskoy. So they have some decisions to make. But, I mean, Carlson will be priority number one. Whether he wants to stay here long term is the question that remains.
So Facebook is telling me that the story originally broke that teammates were yelling at him. I guess it came out this week that it was actually him yelling at himself. So that could fall right into that rhetoric that someone was trying to spin something small into something large just to kind of build, to break up the team or, anything along those lines.
Well, it is just like the Kings.
Yeah.
Like they're just not wearing.
Sorry. So like Kersey, who follows the Sharks, he talked a lot about how Carlson was almost more just being hard on himself and getting that defeated. It took him forever to get on the scoreboard, to get any kind of assist or anything. I think that the Ottawa game was actually a real turning point for him. He got it in his rearview mirror. Since then, he's been playing a lot better. He's starting to seem like he's gelling on the team a lot more. So I think he stays. I mean, we won't know till I think February at the earliest is when they can really sign him or talk about that. But I think I think he's done with Ottawa as much as he was a big part of it. I think it's in his rearview mirror at this point. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, and I think he thinks the Sharks is a good place to do that. So I think he sticks around.
Yeah, so the max contract term in the NHL is 8 years, but Carlson can't sign for 8 years until after the trade deadline in February. So they're pretty much having no negotiations until after that because he's going to want a max contract. Right now, if he re-signed, it could only be for 7 years just because some of the CBA complications since he was traded this offseason.
Hold on. So max deal in the NHL is 8 years.
Correct, yes.
What is that 1 year really something that will really stop someone from signing a 7-year deal to say, okay, you know what, I can get this security, I can get locked in? Like, what if, let's just look at the way he plays. I mean, this guy plays, balls to the wall from what I've seen all the time. Why not just secure a 7-year deal and not have to worry about possible injury or something that's going to make that a 2 or 3 year deal or something? I can understand if during the season you could sign like a 3-year deal, but after the deadline you can sign an 8. To go from 7 to 8 seems like it's kind of just a little bit of a minor thing. I mean, when it comes to millions of dollars, obviously it's not minor, but they're not getting NHL, or I'm sorry, they are NHL. They're not getting like Major League Baseball or NFL size contracts. So is that 1 year really makes that big of a difference to these guys?
Who knows? I mean, it could be a players association thing where they're pushing guys to get max value like it happens in other sports. And I mean, it's just kind of a superstar thing. I mean, all the superstars get 8 years. It's just an expectation. And the one thing we should point out there too is only their current team can offer them 8 years. So if he were to go to unrestricted free agency July 1st, when the NHL market opens, then he would only be able to sign a 7-year deal. That includes with San Jose. Once that July 1st time frame expires, then he can only get a 7-year deal from any team. The Sharks can give him 8 between February and July. So we'll see what happens.
And it seems to be a thing in hockey, right? I mean, if you look at Marlowe, like Sharks offered him a 2-year deal. He hunted around until he found a 3-year deal. So there does seem to be a lot of getting that extra year in hockey that seems important. I think part of it might be an age thing, although Carlson's only 28. So, but you're talking.
He looks 40.
Yeah, right.
No,
that's just hockey. Yeah, but you're talking 8 years. 7 years down the road, he's going to be 35, 36. They like having that security as they get older, that they know they're going to be signed on a team for a little longer, instead of going the Joe Thornton route, which is 1 year every season. He just signs on for another year, hoping to get more play out of him. So,
right. So we mentioned the expectations. Now, break down the way the season's gone, because I mean it's definitely up until late been more of a disappointment than anything. So, how hard is it as a fan to go into a season with the expectations as high as they are, and then midway through or almost midway through the season, really having to kind of temper those feelings and stay optimistic?
I think Sharks fans are very impatient because, like I said, I mean, they've been in the playoffs, 15 out of 16 years, something like that. And, they've only gotten to the Cup finals once, and that didn't turn out so well. So on social media, Sharks fans are very impatient. A lot of folks were calling for the head coach to be fired after they had a recent road trip through Eastern Canada, Ottawa, Toronto, and then in some other American cities as well, like Buffalo. And they lost the first four games of that trip, which actually led to a team meeting by the GM. Doug Wilson kind of stepped in and tried to rally the troops, which has worked. They ended up winning the last game of that road trip and then 4 out of the next 5 since then. So things have turned around recently, but early in the season, their biggest issue has been defense. Just historically, they have been one of the top teams in the NHL in terms of fewest goals allowed. This year, they're on the opposite end of that spectrum. On the bright side, they've scored a lot, but the goaltending has been very inconsistent. Their team defense, they've allowed way too many odd man rushes. I mean, a lot of 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 4 or 5 times a night, which that pretty much hangs your goalie out to dry. I mean, sure, your goalie might stop 1 or 2 of those, but you can't expect him to, lock down all of those.
Yeah, you have games where you see Jones or Dell making, 5 or 6 amazing saves, but it's not enough to save the team because there's just too many chances.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about.
Steve Cropper mentioned something earlier about not holding leads. Is that the biggest thing? Sorry, Greg.
It's been very accurate for sure that they have had plenty of leads that they have blown, but it's really been a trend in the NHL as a whole this year. In fact, one of their division foes, Calgary, I saw a stat the other night. They lead the NHL with most wins going into the third period trailing. I think they have like 7 or 8 wins going into the third period when they've trailed. In fact, there was a game a couple weeks ago where Anaheim went into the third period against, I think it was Washington. They trailed by 4 goals and won. So it's been a trend across the league, but definitely an issue for the Sharks as well.
I think part of it is there's really a push to get the defense involved in the offense and the scoring. And unfortunately, that causes them to be out of place a lot of times when it's time to play defense. So if they're coming up past the blue line, they're trying to take shots and then the puck gets past them. There's no one back there to back up and really help out. I would say, as much as I hate to say he's my favorite player, but, Vlasic's play has been subpar, definitely below his average, and he's probably the best solid defenseman on the team. I really like the new kid, Simic, come in, and he's been playing with Burns. Very good pairing. He actually told Burns to stay on the blue line one game. It was really interesting to see. He pointed to him and told him to stay, which I think is something that Burns needs once in a while. So it seems like the defensive pairings have gotten sorted out a little bit. They're playing more solid, not letting as many pucks get past them. So I think we're, I hate to say this because I'm a Sharks fan, but I think we're turning a corner. And I think tonight will be a good game to watch because it's Chicago. They're really not a great team. We have this tendency to play at the level of the team we play, though. So I'd like to see us play a much higher game, not stoop down and play a Blackhawks game. If we can do that, I think we really look better if we can score 4-1, something like that in tonight's game. So
cool. Go ahead, Greg.
So knowing you guys were coming in, I talked to a few hockey buddies of mine, and they kept talking about Jones and how his season has been really inconsistent. And last year he was inconsistent. The year before, he stood on his head the whole season and was just incredible. You like that hockey reference?
Yeah, very nice.
He Googled that.
Did you write that down? Someone told it to you?
I did. I knew that. But this year he's been inconsistent, and I think from what little I've seen and what little I've talked about, and what little I've heard on the radio, that seems to be one of the common subjects is goaltending playing. And talk a little bit about Jones's season and what their goaltending looks like, because really, you can have a great team on the ice. If you don't have a goaltender, you're nothing.
Yeah, I mean, goaltending definitely is everything at the end of the day when it comes down to it. But, I mean, Jones definitely got off to a bad start. There's no denying that. But I think what we talked about earlier, I mean, they haven't helped their goalies out at all, whether it's been Jones or Dell the backup. They have really put their goalies in a bad position. not necessarily in terms of total shots on goal, just the quality of the chances that they're giving up. So many odd man rushes and 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s left and right. And I mean, Jones, as I've talked to Chad about before, I think is not great at handling breakaways, but you can't really expect any goalie to consistently stop breakaways. I mean, it's just not a high save percentage situation. As Jones was struggling, Dale had a stretch about a month ago where he had played 2 games in a row and had 2 shutouts in a row. So the controversy started up. Here we go, goalie controversy again. Should Aaron Dale see more time? And shortly after that, Dale sort of leveled out. And if you look at their save percentage numbers on the year and their goals against average on the year, they are virtually identical between Jones and Dell. And Jones has always been, I would say, a middle of the road NHL quality starter, maybe slightly above that. The one time he's really shined was their Stanley Cup run a few years ago. He was absolutely amazing in the playoffs. But in the regular season, I wouldn't say he's had a tremendous regular season. He's been good enough for them to get by, that normally he's a much better goalie come playoff time for whatever reason.
I think like the standing on your head comment's funny. So I think that Jones is more of a technical goalie to me. Like he's always positioning or generally positioning in the right spot. He's really good 5-on-5. But like Nolan said, in a breakaway, if he's got to ad lib, if he's got to do something spectacular, he's less likely to make that play than someone like if you look at a Fleury or a Quick or one of those goalies who always seem to be doing somersaults to make dramatic saves. But I do think he turns it amazingly. He turns it up in the playoffs. So I think if you get a better defensive play in front of him, which we've seen the last few games, his technical skill comes out, and then he's always in the right position for where that puck's going to end up. And Dell's a great backup to have. I mean, he jokes that he's the world's okayest goalie, but in reality, he's probably not good enough to be a number 1 somewhere, but he's a pretty good number 2 to have on your roster. I can't see anybody replacing him as our number 2. So
I like that. I like that. World's okayest goalie. That's
how he refers to himself. Yeah, he's a good guy.
This Sharks team is full of characters in general. If you follow this team, you will latch on to some characters. I mean, Brent Burns and Joe Thornton top that list, but there's a lot of good personalities.
Speaking of Thornton, Chris Plute on Facebook commented, "I'm a Sharks fan, and I believe for a long time that we should get rid of Thornton." What's your guys' thought on that?
I saw that comment.
The national media.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, Marleau and Thornton have been the scapegoats for years, right? I mean, Marlowe's gone now, but I mean, they were the 2 faces of the franchise through all these failed playoff performances, so naturally they get all the blame, which I have never thought is fair. I mean, Joe is a legend. His number will be retired in San Jose the day he hangs it up. Probably Marleau as well, for that matter. But no, I'm a big pro Joe Thornton guy, and I think Chad is as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a first line anymore, but,
No.
8 assists and 5 goals or something this season, coming off 2 back-to-back knee injuries. He's playing pretty well for a guy of his age. I think he's good to have on the team when it comes to playoff time and you need that experience. He makes the right decision a lot more times than he makes the wrong one, although a couple drop passes here and there could not be made. But,
he's a huge factor on the bench too, right? I mean, he's a huge leader on that team. And the guys talk about it when he's not in the lineup, how much of a void it is just leadership wise. He's the glue that keeps that team together. And I mean, he's the voice in the locker room and the guy that everyone rallies around. I mean, he's not known for scoring goals, obviously. He's more of an assist guy if you've ever followed hockey. But when he does score, I mean, just watching his teammates and how happy they are just kind of speaks to how much the guys in the locker room love and adore him and want him there.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Nolan might disagree, but I definitely think if we win the Stanley Cup, I think Joe's done. I think he retires at that point. And if we don't, I think you might see another season out of him at most. I don't think he's sticking around for too much longer, but I like having him on the second or third line as just a guy there who kind of anchors the team. So
hasn't that really been a question the last couple of years, is whether he's going to come back or not? That he's, kind of hinted a little bit about retiring, and then all of a sudden he's back on the ice.
I mean, he's the type of guy that's going to play until his leg falls off, basically. The challenge has been, I mean, he's had 2 major knee injuries the last 2 years. He tore his ACL twice, I believe, in the same knee, if I'm not mistaken, or it was both knees.
It was both knees. Yeah, he's had surgery on both knees now.
So, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's never been injured his entire career, and now at the age of 38 and 39 has gone through 2 major knee reconstructions, which, I mean, I can't even imagine going through that at that age. But that just kind of speaks to his dedication. And there is no one in hockey that loves hockey more than Joe Thornton. I mean, the guy is always the first guy at the rink and shows up before the rookies, the guys that should be there first. I mean, he's always the first on the ice, and he lives and breathes hockey and will be out there until he can't be out there anymore.
Well, I think he loves the team. I mean, even when he was injured, he went and picked up Kane when Kane came in from the airport, right? Like, he's a big part in trying to make that trade happen, apparently. And I think that's also something that you miss if you get rid of that leadership on the team, is you have an older guy who can go to young guys and say, hey, here's why you should play for the Sharks. Here's why you should join the team. And it seems like the people listen to that. I can't imagine him. I think if it came down to trade or retire, I think he'd retire. I don't think he'd go to another team at this point, but he'll play as long as they let him.
Yeah. I mean, there were rumors, what was that, 2 off seasons ago when Marleau left Toronto, that he's really close friends with Patrick Marleau from all their years together in San Jose. And there was rumors he may go join him in Toronto, but that fizzled out. And Joe's pretty much made it clear at this point, like Chad said, that it's San Jose or retirement. So they've just been doing 1-year contracts every offseason. And he's been willing to take severe pay cuts in order for them to bring in guys like Tavares, who they missed out on, or Carlson. And I mean, I'm sure he will do the same next year and, take another severe pay cut with all the contracts they have coming up.
It's going to be interesting to see if he ends up behind the bench or in the front office or somewhere in the Kings or the Kings in the Sharks organization.
Don't take teams when it's hockey.
I know, right?
Speaking of staying in the organization, it looks like yesterday the Sharks traded Merkley, their top prospect. Is he still? I know the minor league hockey system is kind of, there's multiple teams that can pull from different, or you can pull from multiple teams as far as the minor leagues go. Is he still within the Sharks talent pool at this point, or is he?
Yeah, no, he's still owned by the San Jose organization. He just got traded from his OHL team, which is the Ontario Hockey League junior hockey. So OHL is the Canadian Junior Hockey League. So those teams can make trades with each other, but their NHL assignment is still the same. And the Sharks couldn't even directly call him up from there. It's completely separate from their AHL team, the Barracuda, which is now if he got traded for the Barracuda, then yes, he would no longer be.
Is that a level below the IHL, the OHL? Is that a lower level than the International Hockey League, or?
I mean, it's the main league in Canada for the younger kids, since they don't have college hockey like we have here in the U.S. So I would say it's comparable to like college hockey in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, what you really look for is him playing on the Barracudas more. Right. That's kind of it's easy to call up from there, so that's when you know.
Yeah, you just have to change locker rooms, right?
Yeah, but he's got to develop a little bit before that happens.
Yeah,
right.
So
I was just scrolling through some of the Shark Attack group that we share a lot into, and someone posted it yesterday if he's still in the organization, and there was no comments on it, so I figured I would clear that up for him. Last but not least, you guys mentioned in your show notes that you sent me that the Sharks' schedule has been ridiculously tough. It's been something that they've had a lot of long trips. They've had a lot of back-to-backs. Is that normal for the West Coast teams to have a little bit harder schedule than the East Coast because of the fact they have to travel so far? I mean, is it uncommon for the number of back-to-backs and then things that the Sharks are seeing this year, or is it all kind of go hand in hand with being out on the West Coast?
A little bit of both. I mean, the West Coast teams definitely have a much more brutal schedule just because of where the teams are located geographically, right? I mean, out west, you got Anaheim, LA, San Jose, Vegas, Arizona, and then a few Western Canadian teams in Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary. But, I mean, the East Coast teams are just concentrated in such a small area. I mean, a lot of times they're taking bus rides to their opponent's game. They only have to jump on a plane. So West Coast teams in general have poor travel, but I would say their schedule this year has been especially brutal in terms of back-to-backs. There was a stretch during that rough road trip. There was 2 weeks where they had a set of 4 back-to-back games, and their scheduling is normally very comparable to the NBA. So, I mean, the NBA has back-to-backs as well, but 4 in a matter of 2 weeks is a little ridiculous.
Well, and twice it was I think it was twice in a row they played in, or 2 road trips they played in 3 different time zones in 3 different, or in like 4 days, something like that. So, they're living on a plane, and it kind of, I do think it affects the West obviously more than it affects the East. But I also feel like, and maybe this is just the Sharks fan in me, I feel like we get screwed every year. Like every season, the Sharks have the worst schedule when it comes to playing back-to-backs and jumping multiple time zones.
The Kings,
yeah, there you go, like the Kings.
And the Kings this year have been in a situation where they play more back-to-backs than any team in the league, and they have, on the second night of their back-to-backs in this season, they've been playing against like playoff teams from last season at the end of every back-to-back, where that team had a night off before the game. And it's like, really? Like, we can't catch a break when it comes to this shit, like nonstop. But last question for you guys. You mentioned the rough start. You mentioned that they kind of picked it up. They had a meeting with the team. They've kind of seemed to find their groove a little bit. What is your prediction through the West and going into the playoff season? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful? Like, what is your level of feeling heading into the second part of the season and the playoffs?
I think the best way to put it right now is cautiously optimistic, right? I mean, they have all the.
Looking for when I said hopeful.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic. They have all the talent in place. I mean, sure, they could beef up their fourth line, and I'm sure Wilson will look to address that at the trade deadline. But I mean, they have the pieces they need. It's just a matter of putting it together. The last 6 or 7 games have looked like that, but we'll see what happens. The division is absolutely on fire right now. You look at Calgary, Anaheim, Edmonton, and Vegas. They've all are 8-1-1 their last 10. So right now, as hot as the Sharks have been the last few games, they're just kind of treading water and keeping pace with the rest of the division. But moving forward, the rest of the season, I do think they will definitely make the playoffs. I'm not convinced they will win the division just because of how competitive it is. But really in the NHL, it's just about getting in. I mean, the Stanley Cup rarely goes to the President's Trophy winner, which is the top record in the league. I think it's only happened once in the last 15 years that the top team has won the cup going into the playoffs. So, I mean, it's really just about getting there. And from there, anything can happen. It's who's hot at the right time, what goalie is playing the best, and playoffs are a crapshoot once you get there.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think they trade for a fourth line center. I think they try to beef up that line. And then if they accomplish that, they're in a good spot. I think they definitely make the playoffs. They've done it so often. I've seen them not make it once, so I would be shocked if they didn't. I think they got to find a way to beat Vegas. It's always a struggle for us. It doesn't seem to matter how Vegas is playing or how we're playing. They got to find a way to beat them, or they're not going to get out of the playoffs.
Yeah, so the NHL playoff structure is kind of strained, right? So it's not a 1-8 system like you have in the NBA. It's broken down by division. So the top 3 in each division get in, and then 2 wild cards from the conference. And the division winner plays one of the wild card teams, and then the 2 and 3 seeds in the division play each other. So naturally, what happens unless the wild cards manage to escape is the second round is 2 teams in the Pacific and 2 teams in the Central Division playing each other. So the Sharks are going to have to go through Vegas most likely. I agree with Chad that that's going to be their main competition within their own division as far as the playoffs go.
So we have Vegas Ron here in the chat box, and he's obviously a Knights fan.
I shouldn't read comments while I'm doing this.
He says that the Knights are going to knock the Sharks out again. They can't get through them, and he wants you guys just to admit that the Sharks are old and that Kane is a bitch. Can you guys comment on that?
So I think there's a misconception in the media as well that the Sharks are an old team because they look at the Joe Thorntons of the world and the Joe Pavelskis, who, yes, are at the end of the career, but those guys, Pavelski is still a primary piece, but a lot of those guys are complementary pieces now. I mean, their young players have not gotten the recognition. Timo Meyer is 22 years old and has 18 goals on the year in his third NHL season. They've got a lot of other young guys, Kevin LeBanc, even some of their young defensemen like Joaquin Ryan, who's sitting out right now. But they have plenty of young guys that are coming up through the ranks. They may not, be the Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski's of the world. Tomas Hertl's another name to throw out there. But the old Shark sort of adage, I think, is kind of a misnomer by the media and tied back to the Thornton and Marlowe-led days when those guys are no longer leading the team.
Right on.
Well, one thing I do know, and little hockey I do follow, I think Doug Wilson is one of the most underrated front office people in any sport. I mean, he knows how to keep that team together. He's been doing it for a long time, and I think Sharks fans have confidence in him that he'll pull something off that'll make this team better. It's kind of their MO for every year is let's just get through the regular season. Home ice advantage is really very little in NHL hockey. I mean, maybe in Vegas or Carolina or something like that, it really plays. But for the most part, it's pretty. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. And I think Doug Wilson has proven that he's year after year found that one little piece that's going to make a change. And I think the Sharks will be all right. It's just, can they come through and make it happen in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Doug's the man. I mean, they've brought in. Just look at his trades over the years. I mean, Joe Thornton, Dan Boyle, Brent Burns, Martin Jones, Carlson this year. I mean, they've acquired so many superstars for basically prospects and spare parts. They haven't lost anyone significant in any of those trades.
Right.
Good stuff, guys. Well, we really appreciate you guys coming on and breaking down the season so far. We will have you on again as the trade deadline approaches and as the playoffs approaches, and hopefully have more promising things to talk about. Maybe hopefully the team will hit their full stride and then be going in into the playoffs time as a powerhouse, and we'll get to talk a lot more. So I definitely appreciate you guys, and you guys are welcome back anytime.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Later,
Thanks, guys.
Sweet.
Good stuff,
all right,
man.
Yeah. No, like I said, those guys, they know their hockey. It's ridiculous. Brett Burns is the man, the only one you should keep. Fire sale. That's from Ron. All right, let's do this, and then let's pay a couple bills, and then we're gonna switch over to King's Talk.
If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, they deserve to have someone working with them that not only knows what they're doing, but will explain everything that happens along the way. That person would be me, Coach Greg Baroza of Keller Williams Realty. I have two goals. My first goal is to coach you through the buying and selling process, making it easy to understand and as stress-free as possible, which isn't easy sometimes. My second goal is to have fun doing it. Come be a part of my team. Let me coach you or anyone you know through the real estate process. Give me a call at 916-241-8068, and let's talk about how I can coach you through the real estate process. Let me ask you one question. Who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I should know right now? Again, that's Greg Baroza, Keller Williams Realty, 916-241-8068.
Hey guys, I'm excited to announce a new partnership with Antonio Pacheco from Folsom Lake Ford. Tony has been my go-to sales guy for a number of years, and he's come on board to bring the awesome sales buying experience to each and every one of you. All of his information is on our website at sportstalk916.com, but if you're in a hurry and you're looking for a new car, give him a call today. Antonio Pacheco, area code 530-218-7069. He will answer all of your questions in regards to the car buying experience, and he is the main guy that I trust in the Sacramento area for all of your car buying needs. Again, Antonio Pacheco, Folsom Lake Ford, 530-218-7069. All right, let's talk about the Sacramento Kings. So we've had plenty of Kings talk. We've talked about the promise. We've talked about things, but we really, we mentioned that they needed a true test. They needed to come out against a team that is, leaps and bounds better than them and see how they perform. And they had that test 2 nights ago against the Golden State Warriors. And the team, first of all, coming off the previous game, the team had 19 three-pointers. They franchise record. They were firing on all cylinders. And they came out a little flat against Golden State. They were relying on that three ball. They wanted to almost go like punch for punch with Golden State, knowing that Golden State can hit the three whenever they want. And they fell into a pretty big hole. They're down 16 early in the first half. And it was one of those things where you're like, wow, fuck, here we go. Like it's toast. You know, this Warriors team is just gonna run them out of the gym. And they started rallying together. They started playing good. They started playing good defense. Amon Shumpert showed why he's so valuable to this team, guarding Durant and making multiple plays against them. And, you know, there was just a lot of stuff going into this game where it gets down to, you know, the final 4 minutes with a 10-point lead. Kings, you know, were down 16. They ended up going up 10. So they had a 26-point swing on the Warriors, which is almost unheard of in this NBA. And unfortunately, they just ran out of gas. I mean, they had the Warriors completely gassed out, but the Kings kind of went away with what they're doing. They went back to the way they started the game, jacking up weird shots, jacking up quick threes. They weren't driving to the hole anymore, and ultimately lost the game. But the takeaways from that, I think, are so much more positive than the negatives. And unfortunately, if you hop into the Kingdom or if you hop any of the Kings Facebook groups, it's the complete opposite. All they're focusing on is the negatives. Oh, we need to fire coach because he took Fox out for too long. Well, Fox had 5 fouls. Yeah. You don't leave him out there, you know, when you still have a 7 or 8 point lead with only 2 minutes to go or 3 minutes to go. You kind of let him sit for a second, you know, 90 seconds or so, and hope that the team can manage it. Well, they didn't. You know, they stopped giving the ball to Buddy. They kept giving it to Bogey. He wasn't producing. You know, and Kings fans are so focused on that it's almost a slap in the face to the team that ultimately is getting praise from everybody. The Warriors coaches, if you look at the post-game interviews, the amount of praise that they got from Coach Kerr, from Draymond Green, from Kevin Durant, who's been on a Kings like praise train the last 2 weeks, Klay Thompson, like they put the Warriors on notice. They put the league on notice that this team is coming and they're not just a rollover game anymore. You can't sleep on them. And I think they're only a few more games like this away from really turning the corner. I don't know how much of the game you watched, but I know that you saw all the comments in the Facebook groups. What's your take on the fact that this team just can't get away from that negative stigma when it comes to their fan base?
Well, I think you got two different things going on. One, this team is a young team. This team is learning how to play with each other. They're learning. They're already better now than they were at the beginning of the season. I've seen big strides in confidence, in ability to play together. They're going to take losses like this. And, I think the difference, and I think what the Kings fans are looking at is all the teams that pick up a superstar and bring in some pieces, and all of a sudden they go from bad to competitive. They don't make those mistakes. We're not doing this. We're building this team organically. We're not bringing in a superstar. We're not bringing in a LeBron James. We're not bringing in a Kevin Durant. We're not bringing in those kind of guys that are going to be able to lead the team, put the team on their back and lead them through those kinds of things. Shumpert is the only guy that has that experience, and he's not playing enough really to make that kind of a difference.
And I think the turning point of the game was when Shumpert slipped and fell and he bruised his hip. He had that hip contusion. That point of the game where he was out would have, I think, was a turning point. Like, shit, our leader went off the bench or went off the floor. What's crazy is most times you see a guy get hurt and they stay in the locker room, right? They're done for the night. Like Bagley sprained his knee, he's out, or bruised his knee, he's out 10 to 14 days. He never came back in. Shumpert goes down, hurts his hip, gets ruled out nearly immediately. Who was on the sideline at the end of the game, cheering the guys on, coaching in the huddle? Amon Shumpert. Like, I think Shumpert has bought into this so much, and he is literally like the linchpin of this team. And I believe it was Draymond who said it after the game. He said, this team is good. They're going to be good. They're going to turn the corner. And I think the most important part about this roster is that they have guys like Zebo and Shump who are the veteran workhorses that are teaching these young guys how to be professionals.
Right. And when I say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's huge for this young core.
So when I say Shumpert's not playing, I said that wrong. He's not the kind of player. He's not going to be a 30-point, 10-rebound guy every night. He's gonna be in there being a complimentary player, but a leader. And so that it's going to take a little bit more time. As far as Kings fans are concerned, they're frustrating as hell, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think they just don't know what to do if they're not bitching about something. We've talked about this in the past is, it doesn't matter. They're going to find something to bitch about because they think that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they've been able to do all these years because the team has sucked. Well, now they're going to nitpick. I mean, who was it earlier that said that Benny Mack is garbage? Earlier, I think was it Ron who said that?
Yeah, send him to Stockton forever.
Yeah, why? I mean, if you're picking on the guy who's the 13th or 14th guy on the bench, that's pretty good. If that's the best you can do in terms of, calling somebody garbage, he's not playing. He's not gonna play. There's no room for him to play. He's not having any effect on the team at all. And nobody would in that position. So I think a lot of times Kings fans just don't know. They see other teams making big moves and making immediate impact. The difference is when you bring in a superstar like that, it's not going to last as long as if you build it from draft picks and organically and get this team together because you have them under contract cheaper for so much longer.
Right. Now, one of the things that was said in you mentioned free agents. We're going to get to that in a second. But one of the things that was said in the Kingdom and whatever was, it's the same thing every year. They try and they try and they try, but nothing seems to happen. And my thought to that was, it's completely different because every year the Kings always play the Warriors well. They play up to that level. I mean, there's some times where they just get completely thumped, but for the most part,
but even seasons where they won 17 to 20 games, most every year there's one or two victories against the Lakers. What was it last year? We beat the Lakers, the Cavs, and somebody else, and we had
we're the only team that beat we were the only team that beat the Warriors and Cavs in back-to-back seans when they were both going to the championships.
Right, right.
And the Kings have beat the Warriors at least once the last 3 years,
Yeah.
But someone made that announcement. Someone said, "Oh, well, they keep trying, they don't get better." Well, my response to that, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, was in years past, it was trying to teach fifth grade math to kindergartners. This season, we finally have fifth graders that are learning the fifth grade math, and they're starting to get it. We had this really young group of guys that were trying to get to play at this super high level, and they just weren't ready. And they've finally grown up. They've matured. They've gotten to the point now where they're at the level they need to be, and now they just have to fine-tune it. A fifth grader comes into class, and it's like, hey, this is fifth grade level math. And you're like, okay, I kind of understand this, but I need you to show me a few things so that I can figure it out. That's where the Kings are. They're at a spot now where they just have to figure out the little things, how to close out a game, how to take the smart shot, how to go in and draw the foul, different things that
and to develop
No,
and to develop a reputation among the league so that they get those veteran calls that they haven't been getting in the last few years.
Oh, without a doubt. And, the respect is there. I mean, like I said, I don't know how much of the game you watch, but in the fourth quarter, the Warriors put Draymond on Fox. They put their best ball defender, although he's 40 pounds heavier, on De'Aaron Fox, and that's a sign of respect. And they had Durant on Fox at one point. Like, they couldn't stop De'Aaron Fox. And Draymond said something in his post game. He's like, these guys are fast. He's like, Willie Cauley-Stein and De'Aaron Fox are probably two of the fastest guys in the league. He's like, when they get running, you can't keep up with them.
And what did Durant say a couple of weeks ago? Is if you put the ball in Fox's hands and let him play, this team is going to be unstoppable.
Yep. And then so let's talk about Durant, because he's been praising the Kings. He said that a couple weeks ago. A couple days ago, they interviewed him again, and they asked about the Kings, the upcoming game, and he said they're an up-and-coming team. You got Fox, you got Buddy, you got Bogey. These guys are going to start playing good. They have an amazing coach in Sacramento, and he's finally letting them play, and they have the fans are behind them, and they're going to be a good team.
Most of the fans.
And then right before the game, he was asked about free agency and why free agents don't ever want to come to Sacramento. And they asked if he thinks that a free agent eventually will start coming here. And he said, yeah, I don't see why free agents shouldn't come here. They have a new building. They have a great team. They have a great coach. Their fans are amazing. And it kind of gets you thinking a little bit. And it's way out of left field. But this team is a small forward away from turning that corner. The Kings are going to have the most, if not like the second or third most cap space next season. Why not throw a fucking truckload of money at Kevin Durant and be like, look, you're the last piece. Can you imagine a starting lineup of, let's just say we keep everything else the same. You keep Willie Cauley-Stein, Bielitsa, or even Bagley at the 4, because he's going to progress to the point where he should be starting.
Let's talk about Bagley in a few minutes, because
let's say let's just even start it as it is now. Let's still have Bagley on the bench. Willie Cauley-Stein, Bielitsa, Buddy or Bogey at the 2, Fox at the 1, and you put Kevin Durant in the starting 3 spot. That team doesn't lose a lot of games.
And they're fast as hell.
Oster says Durant is not coming to Sacramento. That would be the normal rhetoric, but I'm not saying it's a shoe-in. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's not something that's been ruled out from the jump. It may not be a Durant, but I think you're going to start being able to, especially if the money's there. In the past, it's always been, the Kings don't have the cap space to throw a max deal. The Kings can throw out max deals, and they're going to be able to entice one of those guys out there. Golden State won't be able to pay Durant as much as the Kings could. The Lakers probably, because they just don't have the cap space. They have to worry about signing, their other players.
Yeah, but I think they're willing to go over the luxury tax. They haven't paid the luxury tax if they have to.
Yeah, but one thing too is Durant, in my opinion, again, it is a pipe dream, Steve, but that's fine, because pipe dreams sometimes are all you have in Sacramento to try to lure in the big guy, right? Where was I going with this? Durant. One of I think the biggest things that hurt him as a player and as a person was everyone saying that he took the bitch way out going to Golden State to win a championship. You can tell his demeanor, his personality, a lot of things changed. It went a little darker when he went to Golden State because of how much shit he got. What better way to change that perception? Kevin Durant, come to Sacramento, take this young team, be that piece, and help them climb the mountain without going to a superstar loaded team. There's a lot of storylines that could work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, the realist in me agrees with these guys saying Durant's not going to come to Sacramento, but there's a lot more of a chance of Durant coming to Sacramento than LeBron coming to Sacramento, like people were hoping for last year.
Yeah.
We've all talked about it for years that people don't want to come to Sacramento. We're never going to be able to sign a free agent. And it's not because of the city. It's not because of the fans. It's because the team sucked. And they had bad players, and they had ownership that was throwing out stupid ideas, and a GM that didn't have his feet on the ground yet. And just no reason to come to. Why would you come to a team like Sacramento and be a part of a rebuilding process when these guys can get courted by teams that are already there, that are one little piece away, which is right where we are now. So the chances of us signing a big name free agent, we're going to have to overpay still. It's a fact that no matter what happens, no matter what kind of situation we're in, to get them to come to Sacramento, we're going to have to overpay. But I think the ability for us to sign somebody like that with a much better team to put around them is much better than it's been when, the goal was, let's see if we can win 25 games. No free agent's going to come here or there. Now, this team is going to flirt with 500. They're going to flirt with 41 wins this year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a huge improvement and a big step. I mean, there's people that want to go to Milwaukee. Where would you rather go, Milwaukee or Sacramento as a town?
As a town, you probably want to go to Sacramento. As a team, you want to play with the Greek Freak.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, free agents
can you imagine Durant and the Freak on the same roster? Yeah. Fuck.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the past, it's been there's no way in hell a decent free agent's going to come here because, again, we just don't have the team.
And now you're like, well, maybe. One final thing on the Kings and that Warriors game. A lot of fans were posting about how the last 3 minutes and coach didn't put Steve, you just hit the nail on the head. It can change.
Exactly.
Remember when the Warriors used to start? The Warriors built through the draft. The Kings have followed the same path that the Warriors have taken. They don't have a Clay and a Steph yet, but Fox and Bagley could be that enticing piece where the third piece is like, fuck, I can go play with those guys. Durant would fit in with this roster amazingly. But like I said, the final thing is the fans were pissed off about those final 3 minutes when Fox was on the bench and they blew the lead and it's the same thing. We got to get rid of coach and this and that or whatever. But I honestly think that as early as it is in the season, what are we, 24 games into the year or something like that? We're under 25. This win, whether they won the game or not, this one game is not going to have any impact on the season when it comes down to the end result. Whether it be making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, winning 41 games or not, this game doesn't matter. It matters emotionally or whatever as pride or whatever. But as far as like wins and losses goes, this game doesn't mean shit. But I feel that the tape and the film from those final 3 minutes of this game are going to be the most valuable file that's on any iPad, computer, or TV screen the rest of this season, because this is exactly what this team needs to build off of. And I don't think Kings fans look at it from a glass half full type of perspective. Sure, we lost. It sucks. We had a 10-point lead. Fuck, it's a bummer to lose to the Warriors at home. But this is going to be the catalyst of all film. You start to break down a game, go back to that Warriors film. You want to, you guys closed out a game. Look, this is what you did differently from that Warriors game. Here's the film. Like, this film is going to be regurgitated so many goddamn times in these players' heads that they're probably going to be able to close their eyes tonight and watch the whole thing without a TV screen. Like, they're going to memorize it. And I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway of this game, more so than anything else. And I think Kings fans need to remember that. It's like sometimes you have to take the positives out of the negative, and I think those 3 minutes are going to be the biggest positive that we can ask for all season long.
Hey, a couple more things I wanted to touch on with the Kings.
Yeah, you want to touch on Bagley, right?
Well, before that, though, Jaeger just gets hammered. And there's a group of people that post regularly in a lot of the boards that he needs to go. He's a horrible coach. And I really disagree with that. And here's what I'm thinking. He is a coach that had one style of play in his head. And we saw that the last couple of years that, in order for him to win, he felt like we had to slow the ball down, play one-on-one basketball, and really just kind of slow the game to a pace that
what we saw in Memphis. It was the Memphis Grizzlies style with Conley and Zebo and Gasol. Slow it down, beat you guys up.
And this year we looked at the preseason and we kind of saw the same thing, and we all kind of sat around going, all right, this is one more year of rebuilding. We're just going to try to get through this.
Like, this is stupid. But
he coached the preseason brilliantly because he didn't show any of his cards.
Right.
And I remember hearing something about Don Shula, who is probably, if you put the Mount Rushmore of coaches of all time together, he has as good a chance of anybody to be on that Mount Rushmore. A fantastic coach, the greatest of all time. And one of the things that he said is the mark of a good coach is to change his philosophy based on the players that you have, and exploiting the talents that those players have, and not just holding to your own philosophy and way of playing. And Jaeger made a complete 180 and went from slow it down, let's keep the score under 100, let's keep the score in the low 90s, to here's the ball, go. Just go. And
it almost went, to me, it went from, I'm just going to make this last one more year and get that final year of my paycheck, to I want to coach this team going forward.
Right. And I think he saw with the speed of this team, with their ability, and having somebody like Shumpert there who knows how to play that way, I think he made the decision in the offseason that we're going to run the ball like crazy, but he didn't show any of his cards during the preseason. And I think he was able to take the league by surprise. So in that terms, Jaeger's a damn good coach. And I think that he'll be able to, as this team, I think what he's done is he's gone from completely holding the reins on this team and slowing them down and making them play defense to, okay, go. And now, as the team gets better on that, he can bring them in a little bit and emphasize the defensive part of the game and let them run. And that's going to be ideally the best way for this team to play. So I can see, these 140 to 133 scores for the most part of the next stretch of the season. But I look towards the later part of the season of bringing those scores down a little bit and playing a lot better defense once they get their idea of how to play offense. And in terms of,
because that speed is great, but what happens when they hit the playoffs?
You can't play that way. You can't play that way in playoffs.
So they have to be able to have a multifaceted game. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Unless they can just, it matches up well against Houston. It matches up well against the Golden State. And it would probably, you know what? I kind of take that back, because the only team that really, really slowed down the pace in the playoffs was San Antonio. The other ones still kind of ran and do some things. San Antonio is not making the playoffs this year. So let's just say the Kings didn't limp into the 8th seed or get in there. This style would match up well with Golden State. It's just a matter of the maturity. Can they get through a 7-game series? This would match up well with OKC. It would match up well with Houston, with the Lakers. This style may be something, and the advantage that they would have, I think, is you get to the playoffs. Let's say you play the Lakers. Well, the Lakers are a bad example. LeBron's really the only older one there, but he's in such great shape. Houston or OKC, you get there, they have a lot of veterans, a lot of older guys. They just played an 82-game season. If the Kings can make it to the playoffs and still have those young legs under them, they may be able to run circles around these older teams and just blow them out of the gyms. I mean, it's hard to say. It may be an advantage. It just depends on how their conditioning is and how it works. Joe says that we better shoot better from the line or the playoffs will be just an appearance. Yeah, our free throw shooting is fucking atrocious. It's absolutely terrible. What was your last take on Bagley?
On Bagley, I'm just worried about the kid. I mean, I'm worried that, and I know they've been freak injuries, and I know that he's had some things that aren't. I mean, they're just one-offs, but I'm worried the kid might be a little bit injury prone, and he's
tweak, which is one thing. I mean, that can happen to anybody. I sneeze and I hurt my back sometimes. But the one that he took the other night, the bruised knee was I don't want to say it was a cheap shot, but he just got held up in the air a little too long and he lost his balance and fell to the ground. I mean, that's not a common NBA.
I know, but
I think it would worry me a lot more if he was on the same level as like a Reuben Foster. Those first couple games of, he hurt his hand. Oh, he hurt his shoulder. Oh, he hurt his back. Oh, he bruised his knee. Oh, he nicked an ovary. Like, whatever. Like, Foster had the first 4 games of the 49ers season, every, third play, Foster's laying face down in the grass.
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with it? You're wearing pads. How are you so hurt? You know what I mean? And it's like, I think Bagley's fine. Ron just said Giles is going to get Marvin's minutes for the next 10 to 14 days. I think that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I'm 100% down with that.
I think this team is building some depth too.
I also wondered if Zebo would make a return, but he just doesn't fit the run. I mean, he would have to be a third, center when they really slow it down. He just doesn't fit. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Harry Giles, and I think that'll be good. Yeah. Reuben Foster has tender ovaries. That's going to be the quote of the day. Anything else on the Kings before we move on to our football picks and the wrap up the show?
No, I just, again, going back to the stupid idiots that are in some of those chat rooms, I think a lot of times these guys are just posting shit.
He's an idiot.
Just basically clickbait is, I'm going to see what I can say is the dumbest thing out there. And I'm not going to give this one guy, and I know you know who I'm talking about, any kind of, I'm just not going to talk about what he said, but there's one guy out there that made really a stupid comment the other day, and I really think it was just clickbait. Is I'm going to say the dumbest thing I could possibly say, and let's see how many guys I can get to start an argument with me or get a bunch of comments, because what this guy said was just completely stupid. And there are actually 2 or 3 of them, but one in particular about basically it was a racial comment that was made. Did you see that one?
Was it, if I remember right, it was you guys wouldn't wouldn't be giving Bogey so much free passes if he wasn't white?
No, if he was white. Or if he wasn't white. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fucking retarded.
Just stupid. And I kind of blame the moderators in that group because they should be deleting shit like that. But it's just clickbait. It's just guys trying to see what they can say that's as stupid as they possibly can. And it's pot stirs. That's all they're trying to do. It's just there's one in every crowd. Unfortunately, there's
a few.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. That's enough of that. All right. NFL talk. Real quick, we're going to talk about the Raiders real fast because that lawsuit has been filed against the Raiders. It's not about keeping the team in Oakland. It's not about, from what I've seen, there's not even anything about the naming rights or keeping the branding of the team. Oh, fuck. Ron, you reminded me. We're going back to that. Thank you, Vegas Ron.
Oh, yeah.
it's not about keeping the team or the branding or the naming rights. It's basically just a breach of contract, and that has caused the Raiders now obviously the Raiders pulled their agreement or the option to pick up 2019 in the Coliseum. They've pretty much revoked that completely now. It's off the table because of the lawsuit. And it brings up questions of where we might see the Raiders play next season. The University of Nevada is out, so they will not be in.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
They will not be in Vegas. But there's been talks about San Diego playing at Qualcomm. There's been talks about Levi Stadium playing with the 49ers because that stadium was built and designed to hold two teams. But TJ posted one today that's very interesting, and I'm not sure how I feel about it because we've seen what football does to a baseball stadium, but apparently AT&T Park is on the list of ideas for the Raiders to play their home games for next season.
Really?
I don't know that I like that because they'd have to roll out bleachers roll out the sidelines, roll out some bleachers. They'd have to really reconfigure because it basically the sideline of the visitor sideline would run down the third base line.
I've been to a football game. I've been to a football game at AT&T.
So is that something that you want to see them do? Let's just say the Giants turn the table and they're in the playoffs, right? And then you're juggling Raider home games and at a baseball stadium with a playoff schedule where they're just going to destroy the infield. They're going to destroy the grass. Not that the Giants don't host like Metallica concerts and shit mid-season that just fucking destroy the outfield, but that's a different type of destruction than 53 guys or 106 guys running around is going to do. What are your thoughts on them playing at AT&T?
I've been to a couple of football games at AT&T. It's not a bad place to watch a football game. I don't know that I like the Raiders being at AT&T, but the good thing is they're not going to play 8 home games at AT&T. Well, they probably will with preseason, but they're not going to play a full schedule because chances are, from what I've read, is the Raiders most likely will have 2 European games next year or 2 international games. So they're talking about the Raiders going over 1 week to play. Well, no, one week playing in London as the home team and staying there and playing the next weekend as the away team.
Huh.
So, I read that a couple of times this week. So I think that would limit the effect on the field. I've also heard Levi Stadium as an option, which I think would be a little bit better because it's a football-only stadium.
And it's designed to hold 2 teams. They have 2 home locker rooms. They can
Right. So, I don't know if the Niners would be in for that, but if it's only for 1 year, I think they'd probably be all right with it.
And why wouldn't the Niners like someone to help them pay that rent?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Okay. Like, why not? I mean, and what's funny is if you jump in any 49er groups, right? Like on Facebook, we talk about the Kings all the time. Jump in any 49er fan groups, and you mention the Raiders. No, all of our signs are up for red and gold. And are you the one taking the signs down? Shut the fuck up. They're going to take them down. They're going to pick them up. You know what I mean? Like, right. Raider fans aren't going to go in there and destroy Levi Stadium, because they see a Niners logo. They're not going to, it's just, I don't know. It's the fan rhetoric is fucking stupid. It bugs the hell out of me. It's like, let them play. Maybe if the Raiders come in next season and help with some of the cost of that stadium, maybe you'll see a better product on the field because the Niners can spend some more fucking money.
Right. Hey, did you see there's an article on CBS Sports this morning. And the headline was pretty interesting. It says, did Mark Davis accidentally admit the Raiders are tanking? We're doing a good job of getting ourselves a high pick this year. And Gruden has come out all season saying, we're not tanking. Well, apparently, and now he's claiming he was just joking around. But Mark Davis came out the other day and said, made a comment, just like I said, of, hey, we're doing a great job of trying to get a high pick now, aren't we? I mean, I was talking to some guys last night about this who are Raider fans. And, we talked about them tanking and getting rid of Khalil Mack so they could get a good pick and get another defensive lineman. And it all had to do with cap space and all that kind of stuff, according to these guys. I'm not sure I believe them. But, it's interesting that the truth's coming out. And it's just what a clusterfuck this whole organization is.
Joe just said it a minute ago. The Raiders are a sad organization, and that's exactly what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Real quick, our last thing we're gonna do is our picks. But god damn it. I don't know if you guys have all heard this or not, but and I don't even really know that there's much to elaborate on it, except I think that Barnes is 100% accurate in some of the things that he says, and we just lost Greg. 100% accurate in some of the things that he says because of the fact that, there is a lot of two-faced. I
think I got kicked out there for a second.
A lot of two-faced people when it comes to media and whatever. But this is what Matt Barnes ended up on a live Facebook feed with Steven Jackson. They were talking about some shit, and
they were very relaxed too. Did you notice how relaxed? Quote, relaxed.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Here's what Matt Barnes had to say about Grant Napier.
Just not for the bullshit. That's another motherfucker too. Grant Napier, the Kings announcer, bitch, talk big shit. But then as soon as he gets around you, hey, how you doing? How you doing? What's going on? Hey, how's this? How's that? How's man? You pussy. Bobby Jackson posted a picture the other day. And it was like him, Peja, some of the players. Just, I was just like, that's a hell of a group of guys besides Grant's punk ass. Like, I just don't like motherfuckers that try to play both sides of the fence. Like, if you don't, I respect you. You don't like me, speak up on it, but just be prepared what's going to come back to you. At the end, be prepared. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm going to see you somewhere. You know what I mean? I frequent Sacramento often. I'm going to see you, but be prepared. Keep that same energy. That all that shit you talked about, be in front of all my friends and family and all these, my hometown. Be prepared when I see you might get slapped. It's just half the people.
I don't have a huge problem with what he said.
I really?
No,
I have no respect for somebody
said it. The way he said it, okay, it's a problem. But the message that he's conveying about don't be two-sided and don't be fake and this and that, I've heard that so many times about Grant Napier that it doesn't surprise me in the least that another person is saying it. And it is, I've seen Grant do it firsthand. We went to an event after one of the Kings games, and his wife actually invited us out to it. Like, it was at the arena, and once Grant had a drink in his hand, it was a different Grant. And I'm not going to say he was talking shit about people because he wasn't. But he is a normal individual, and he says what's on his mind, and he'll talk and he'll crack jokes and he'll do things. And, he's not, and I guess that's human nature, right? You have a public persona and you have a personal life. I mean, it's fine. I mean, we're all the same way. But like I said, this isn't the first time that I've heard a former Kings player talk about how they don't like Grant because he's two-sided. And, I haven't personally experienced it or seen it, per se. But I have seen a different Grant Napier than the public, than the radio side of him or the TV side of him. And it doesn't surprise me. Now talking about slapping him and calling him, a pussy and all this other stuff, that's a little far. But the message that he's trying to get out of be real to people and don't be two-sided and don't be fake. I agree with that 100%.
Okay. First off, I have zero. Matt Barnes carries zero credibility with me. I don't give a fuck what he says. Anytime you get convicted of beating up your girlfriend, you drive 3 hours to be a little bitch and go beat up the guy who's dating your ex-girlfriend. You have zero credibility with me. So
don't get me wrong.
I don't
Matt
care.
Barnes doesn't hold You need
I
water.
don't care. Talk to all the shit. I will talk all the shit about Matt Barnes that I could. If I had a 50,000 watt radio station, I'd talk all kinds of shit and, let him come up and try to bitch slap me. You'll be not only paying child support, but you'll be paying my salary for the rest of my life too, you punk ass. So he's got zero credibility.
I feel like that's a sound bit that we need now going forward. You punk ass.
Right? As far as Grant Napier's concerned, his job is to get people to listen to his radio show.
Yeah.
His job is to say those things that are going to get people out to turn on his show. And all these guys that bitch about what a punk ass he is and how horrible he is and how he's just a king's mouthpiece and, they can't stand him. They all listen because they all know everything that he says. And that's his job. And of course he's going to, I don't know. I've never seen him around the players. I've seen him a couple of times in restaurants and he just kind of minds his own business. I don't know that he's going to walk up to Matt Barnes or one of the players and go, on my radio show yesterday, I called you a dumb shit because you beat your wife up. So what do you think about that?
Right.
He's not going to do that.
Right.
He's going to be cordial. If you want to have a discussion with him, I'm sure he's up to having a discussion, but really a fight over something that you did,
Right.
It's not like he's making up stories. It's stuff that's been reported. It's stuff you were fucking convicted on, so shut up, act like an adult, quit beating up women, quit trying to be a wannabe thug, and just be a man.
Vegas Ron says, "Don't talk shit about Barnes, man, behind his back."
It's not behind his back.
He's got peeps.
It's not behind his back because anybody can see it. Let him come after me. Same thing with Grant Napier. And I saw a couple people saying he talks shit behind players' backs. No, he doesn't. He talks shit.
Right, but he also talks shit in public.
He talks shit on a 50,000 watt radio station. It's not like he can, turn it off. It's not like any of them can't listen, and
Right.
most of them do. Just shut up, Barnes. Just shut up.
That's right. All right. Now let's do our pick.
Okay.
Woosah.
So.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not here to get back in the presidential race. But you never know. I could be swayed. America needs me. Okay, now it's time for the most luxurious, amazing, incredible picks in the world. Mine. I'll take the Ravens to top the Bengals, even though that doesn't make sense because cats eat birds.
Cats eat birds.
I'll take the Rams to beat the Seahawks, but who really cares? My upset pick is the Eagles to beat the Giants, and my wild card is the Bills to sink the Dolphins.
All right, boys, you heard his picks. Now it's your turn. Greg B, who you got? I'm still waiting for one of those games to line up right. All right, so Thursday Night Football. You took Kansas City.
I did.
I didn't. I took the Chargers.
Saw that.
Hell of a game, and that just rolls with my San Diego Super Bowl pick. They were smart to rest Melvin Gordon one more week. Justin Jackson played a great game. I think Gordon will be back next week and get ready for the playoff push. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to continue to ride the Chargers out because they showed something that a lot of teams didn't. And you put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and he's a different quarterback. So
well, and I think the other part of that was the Chiefs were down to their third or fourth string running back too.
Yeah, that too.
In order for that offense to run efficiently, you need that running back because it's all off play action, and he's got to be able to make the outlet passes and things like that. So.
Yep. Let's see. The entire group took Houston over the Jets. And who'd you take in the Browns Denver game?
I had the Browns.
So did I.
Yeah, I had the Browns.
All right.
And you know what? The Browns look good. And again, I'm going to go back to the term that I coined. I'm the one responsible for saying this. Is the Kings and the Browns are the same team.
Mm-hmm.
The same team. So I'm going to take credit for that.
Yep. Jacksonville hosts Washington.
I have Jacksonville. The Redskins are a clusterfuck.
Oh, they're terrible. Raiders are at the Bengals.
I had the Bungles.
Me too. Cardinals are at the Falcons.
I took the Falcons. They're a stronger bird than the
right.
Cardinal.
That bird will eat the other bird. I took the Falcons as well. Titans at the Giants.
I took the Giants. Now, that was before I knew that Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't going to play today, but yeah, I took the Giants.
Ron says you're about to enter the barnyard. I took Tennessee. Miami goes to Minnesota.
I have Minnesota, and they're up 14-0 right now.
Same. Cowboys go to the Colts.
Cowboys.
I have the Cowboys. They're down 7-0. Bears host the Packers.
I had the Packers.
I have the Bears.
I can't get away from picking the Packers.
Right, it's hard. Ravens host the Bucks.
I have the Ravens.
Same. Buffalo host.
Hold on. Big news in Baltimore is that Flacco's been demoted.
Flacco's done.
Yeah,
your future quarterback of the Oakland Raiders. You heard it here first.
Absolutely.
The Bills host the Lions.
I picked the Bills in this game.
So did I. The Seahawks travel to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers.
I took the Seahawks.
Same here. Patriots go to Pittsburgh.
I picked Pittsburgh.
I'm going to stick with New England on this one.
Well, the reason I picked Pittsburgh is they're two different teams. On the road, they're at home, they're almost unbeatable.
But I think New England's gearing up for that playoff push. So
but I think Roethlisberger, he's been on point all year at home. On the way,
Yep. The Eagles go to the Rams. The Eagles just found out that Carson Wentz has a broken back. Apparently, nobody told Carson Wentz and let him continue to play. So there's some turmoil going on there. I have the Rams.
I do too.
And then the Saints go to the Panthers.
I take the Saints.
So do I. So
who said that? Oh, Vegas Run. Barnes versus Greg, even with Barnes' hands tied, TKO in 10 seconds. You know what?
Pay me.
Bring it on. Bring it on. And then my lawyer will be talking to your lawyer tomorrow.
Right, so, exactly.
Not only hitting me and knocking me out in 10 seconds, but beating up a cripple guy. How is that going to look?
Right? Beat up a one-legged guy.
Right? Absolutely.
All right. Anything else you want to cover?
High school football, real quick.
What happened to the Folsom Bulldog? I mean, they won, but holy crap, where did that come from?
That was a great game. We actually had that game on instead of the Kings game for a long time. It was a great game.
Great game. No one expected it. That team from Southern, not Southern, but from down south,
San Diego,
came in, and I think Folsom was shook. They did not.
Folsom was the underdog. The other team was favored. They were Folsom.
Yeah, but for Folsom to not score like 50, like they always do, to only score 21 and win, that's a hell of a game.
They knew that was the kind of game they were going to be in because this team they were playing ran the ball and played defense. So they knew that game was going to be tough, and they knew that they weren't favored. So for them to come back and win was pretty amazing. That was a good win.
Sure.
And then a couple other teams. Del Oro won a state championship. Rio Linda won a state championship, and Colfax lost in the championship game. So lots of good high school football in the Sacramento area. Lots of success. So congratulations, guys, on some really good high school football season this year. Sacramento's a force in high school football.
And last but not least, it is WWE TLC Day.
Oh God.
Tables, ladders, and chairs, and Monday Night Raw is in Sacramento tomorrow night.
Aren't they doing 2 shows too?
Huh?
Somebody said they do 2 shows.
Just the 1 show, and then but I wish I was going tomorrow night. I really do, because it's a very rare when it happens. But Vince McMahon is actually going to be on the show tomorrow night. He's going to be in the building, and it's just fun when Vince is on TV. He's in the building every single show, but the fact that he actually makes a TV appearance is going to be pretty cool. But yeah, won't be there this week, not this year. But yeah, that's what we have. Football's going. It's kind of a gloomy day outside here in Sacs, so let's bunker down, watch some football, and enjoy it. So for Greg Veroza, I'm Greg Bull. This was episode 265. Also, if you hop on iTunes, Spotify, or the Google Music Play Store, you'll see episode 1 of After Hours.
Yeah, that was a good show the other day. Good job the other day.
Yeah,
so that was a good job the other day.
You could get some information about buying your home or getting pre-qualified, and then we're going to have a After Hours 2 with Greg Veroza coming up soon, and also going to break down the new training facility in Roseville, Absolute Flex Appeal. We're going to have the owner Tyler on from there as well in the next coming days or weeks before they reopen. They close this weekend. They close today. They're moving from a very small studio, which is about 1,600 square feet. It's a very small, intimate gym into a 7,600 square foot facility in Rockland. Wow. So it's going to be big. We're going to talk to him about that and the plans to grow even bigger. Where's my shirt? Where is your shirt? Damn it. I gave you one. But with that being said, for Greg, I am Greg.
Oh, wait. You forgot to thank our guests.
Oh, yeah. Nolan, Torri, Chad, Thurston, they came on and talked Sharks, and they broke it down tremendously. We'll have them on again, so big thanks to them as well.
Yeah.
So again, for Greg, I'm Greg. This is episode 265.
Good night, Larry.